first time Jake saw Emma singing in that little white church on Mercy Street, he swore he heard angels. Now, you got to understand something about Jake. He wasn't the church-going type. Never had been. His mama used to drag him to Sunday service when he was knee-high to a grasshopper. But once he turned 16 and got that rusty pickup truck, he'd been finding excuses every blessed Sunday morning. Too tired, too busy, too this, too that. His mama would shake her head and say, "Boy, you're gonna need the Lord one day." But Jake just smiled and drove on by. That particular Sunday in late September, though, Jake's best friend Marcus had been begging him something fierce. "Come on, man," Marcus had said. "Just this once. They got a new choir director, and the music's different now. Not like the old days. It's got drums, got guitars. You'll like it. I promise you that." Jake had rolled his eyes. "Church is church, Marcus. Ain't no amount of drums gonna change that." But Marcus wouldn't quit. He kept on and kept on, the way a dripping faucet keeps on until you got no choice but to fix it or go crazy. Finally, Jake gave in. All right, he said. "One Sunday, that's all you're getting from me. One Sunday, and then you leave me be." So that's how Jake found himself sitting in the third row of Mercy Street Baptist Church that bright September morning, wearing the only button-up shirt he owned that didn't have a stain on it. The church was small, the kind of place where everybody knew everybody, where the wooden pews had been worn smooth by 3 generations of sitting and praying. The walls were painted cream, and morning light came streaming through the windows like liquid gold. Jake was looking around, half bored already, when the music started. And oh, when that music started, everything changed. The drums came in first, then the bass, then the guitars. Marcus had been right about that. But it wasn't the instruments that grabbed Jake by the heart and wouldn't let go. No, sir. It was the voice that rose up above all that music like a bird taking flight. Emma stood at the front, eyes closed, hands raised, singing like she meant every single word. She was tall and slender, with dark hair that fell past her shoulders and skin the color of warm honey. But it wasn't her looks that struck Jake speechless, though Lord knows she was beautiful. It was something else. Something in the way she sang, like she was having a conversation with heaven itself. Like she knew secrets Jake didn't know. Like she'd found something he'd been looking for his whole life without even knowing he was looking. "Who is that?" Jake whispered to Marcus. Marcus grinned. "That's Emma Grace, the pastor's daughter. I told you the music was different. You didn't tell me about her. Figured I'd let her be a surprise." Jake couldn't take his eyes off Emma for the rest of the service. When she sang, the whole church seemed to glow. When she finished and sat down in the front row beside her father, a stern-looking man with gray hair and reading glasses, Jake felt like someone had turned off the sun. The pastor preached about forgiveness and redemption, about coming home to God no matter how far you'd wandered. Jake barely heard a word. He was too busy watching the back of Emma's head, watching how she nodded when her father said something she agreed with, watching how she wrote notes in the margins of her Bible. After the service, people gathered outside in the churchyard, shaking hands and hugging and talking about whose cousin was visiting and whose garden was doing well. Jake hung back, suddenly shy. What was he going to say to her? He wasn't even a believer. He'd only come because Marcus had worn him down. But then Marcus, that troublemaker, that instigator, grabbed Jake by the arm and pulled him straight toward Emma. "Emma Grace," Marcus called out. "I want you to meet my friend Jake." Emma turned, and when her eyes met Jake's, he forgot how to breathe. Up close, she was even more striking. She had eyes the color of rich earth, and when she smiled, dimples appeared in both cheeks. "Nice to meet you, Jake," she said, extending her hand. Her voice was warm and sweet, like honey in hot tea. "I don't think I've seen you here before." Jake took her hand. It was soft and warm. "First time," he managed to say. "Marcus dragged me." Emma laughed. "Well, Marcus has good taste in friends, then. I hope you enjoyed the service." "You're singing," Jake said, and then stopped, not sure how to finish. "Your singing was... it was something else." "Thank you," Emma said, and she blushed a little, which made Jake's heart do a strange flip in his chest. "I just love to worship. Always have. Ever since I was little, music's been my way of talking to God." Before Jake could respond, Emma's father appeared beside her. Up close, Pastor David was even more imposing. He was a big man, broad-shouldered, with eyes that seemed to see right through you. "Emma," he said, his voice deep and commanding, "we need to get going. Your mother's waiting." "Yes, Daddy," Emma said. She turned back to Jake. "It was nice meeting you. I hope you'll come back next Sunday." "Maybe I will," Jake said, though he'd promised himself this was a one-time thing. As Emma walked away with her father, Marcus elbowed Jake in the ribs. "Man, you got it bad already." "Shut up," Jake said. But he was smiling, because Marcus was right. He did have it bad. Real bad. The thing about falling, you see, is that you don't always know you're falling until you've already hit the ground. That's what Jake's grandmother used to say, and she was right about most things. Jake went home that Sunday afternoon thinking about Emma's voice, Emma's smile, Emma's eyes. He tried to watch football. He tried to work on his truck. He tried to do anything to get her out of his head. But she was stuck there like a song you can't stop humming. By Wednesday, Jake had made up his mind. He was going back to church on Sunday. Not for God. Not for the music. For Emma Grace. And he knew it was probably foolish. He knew a girl like that, a pastor's daughter, a church girl through and through, probably wouldn't give him the time of day. But he had to try. Something in his chest was pulling him toward her like the moon pulls the tide. Sunday came around again, and this time Jake didn't need Marcus to drag him. He got up early, took a shower, put on that same button-up shirt, and drove himself to Mercy Street Baptist Church. He got there 20 minutes early, which meant he had to sit in his truck and wait because he didn't want to look too eager. At exactly 10:50, he walked through those white doors. The church was filling up. Jake found a seat in the same spot, third row, right side, and waited. His heart was beating like a drum in his chest. What if Emma didn't remember him? What if she did remember him but didn't care? What if... Then the music started, and there she was. Emma Grace, standing at the front, eyes closed, hands raised, singing like an angel once again. And just like the first time, Jake couldn't look away, couldn't breathe right, couldn't think about anything except the sound of her voice and the way the morning light caught in her dark hair. After the service, Jake worked up his courage. He didn't wait for Marcus this time. He walked right up to Emma as she was gathering her sheet music. "Hi," he said. "I don't know if you remember me. I'm Jake. I was here last week." Emma looked up and smiled. Those dimples again. "Of course I remember you, Jake. You came back. You told me to. I tell lots of people to come back. Most of them don't." She tilted her head, studying him. "What made you come back? Was it the music?" Jake knew he should lie. Knew he should say yes, it was the music or the pastor's preaching or the friendly people. But something about Emma made him want to tell the truth. "It was you," he said. "I came back to hear you sing again." Emma's smile faded a little, and for a moment Jake thought he'd made a terrible mistake. But then she said, "That's honest. I appreciate honest." She paused. "You're not a believer, are you?" "How'd you know?" "I can tell. It's in your eyes. You look at the church like you're visiting a foreign country, like you're interested but not convinced." "Is that a problem?" Emma considered this. "It's not my place to say. God brings people here for all kinds of reasons. Maybe he brought you here to find faith. Maybe he brought you here for something else. I don't know his plans. What if I told you I just wanted to get to know you better?" Emma looked down at her sheet music. "Then I'd say you should come to Bible study on Wednesday nights. 7 o'clock. If you're serious about getting to know me, you need to understand what's important to me. And my faith is the most important thing in my life." "Wednesday night," Jake said. "I'll be there." And he was. That Wednesday, Jake walked into the church fellowship hall, where about 15 young people sat in a circle with Bibles open on their laps. Emma was there, sitting between her best friend Sarah and a guy named Tom who kept looking at Emma like he wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. Jake recognized that look. It was probably the same look he had on his own face. Bible study was led by Pastor David himself. He was going through the book of James, talking about faith and works, about how belief without action was dead. Jake tried to follow along, tried to understand, but the words felt slippery in his mind. He was raised in church, sure, but he'd never really paid attention. Now he was paying attention, but it was like trying to read a book in a language he'd forgotten. After the study, Emma came up to him. "So, what did you think?" "I think I need a lot of catching up," Jake admitted. "I don't understand half of what your father talks about." "That's okay. Nobody understands everything at first. It's a journey, you know? Not a race." Emma smiled. "You want some coffee?" "We always have coffee and cookies after Bible study." They sat together in the fellowship hall, drinking weak church coffee from styrofoam cups. Emma told Jake about growing up as a pastor's kid, about how she'd always felt the weight of expectations, about how people watched her differently because of who her father was. Jake told Emma about his job at the garage, about how he'd always been good with his hands, fixing things that were broken. He told her about his mother, who still prayed for him every day even though he'd stopped going to church years ago. "She sounds like a good woman," Emma said. "Your mama." "She is. Best woman I know. Second best, maybe." Emma laughed. "Careful, Jake. Flattery might work on some girls, but I'm not most girls." "I'm noticing that." Over the next few weeks, Jake became a regular at Mercy Street Baptist Church. Sunday mornings, Wednesday nights. He even started coming to Friday prayer meetings, though he didn't pray out loud. He just listened. Listened to Emma pray in that sweet, earnest voice of hers. Listened to her talk about God like he was her best friend. Listened and tried to understand this world she lived in. And slowly, carefully, Emma let Jake into her life. They started meeting for coffee after Bible study. They started taking walks around the church property, talking about everything and nothing. Emma told Jake about her dreams. She wanted to record a gospel album someday, wanted to travel and sing and share her faith through music. Jake told Emma about his dreams too, though they felt small compared to hers. He wanted to own his own garage someday, wanted to make an honest living, wanted to make his mama proud. "Those aren't small dreams," Emma said. "Honest work is good work. God values that." "You really believe God cares about me fixing cars?" "I believe God cares about everything we do. Every moment of our lives matters to him." Jake wanted to believe that, wanted to believe in the God that Emma talked about so easily. But belief didn't come easy for him. It was like trying to hold on to water. The harder he grasped, the more it slipped through his fingers. Now, you got to understand something about Pastor David. He was a good man, a righteous man, but he was also a protective father. And he'd been watching Jake with narrowed eyes ever since that second Sunday when Jake came back. Pastor David had seen plenty of young men come sniffing around his daughter over the years. Some of them were good Christian boys from good Christian families. Some of them were not. Jake, in Pastor David's estimation, was definitely in the not category. One evening in late October, Pastor David called Emma into his study. It was a small room lined with books, with a desk covered in papers and sermon notes. Emma knew that look on her father's face. It was his serious look. His "we need to talk" look. "Sit down, Emma Grace," he said. Emma sat in the chair across from his desk, her hands folded in her lap. "What is it, Daddy?" "It's about that boy, Jake." "What about him?" "I've been watching him, watching the way he looks at you, watching the way you look at him." Pastor David leaned forward. "Emma, you're 22 years old. You're a grown woman. I can't tell you who to spend time with, but I can remind you of what's at stake." "I know what's at stake, Daddy. I'm not a child." "I know you're not, but you're my daughter, and I've spent my whole life protecting you. That boy doesn't share your faith. He's only coming to church because of you, not because of God. You can see that, can't you?" Emma looked down at her hands. "Yes, I can see that. But people come to church for different reasons, Daddy. You taught me that. Maybe God is using me to bring Jake to faith. Or maybe Jake is using faith to get close to you. Have you considered that?" "He wouldn't do that. Jake's honest. He told me right from the start he came back because of me. He didn't pretend." Pastor David sighed. "Emma Grace, I'm going to tell you something your grandmother told me when I was courting your mother. She said, 'Don't be unequally yoked.' Do you know what that means? It's from 2 Corinthians. Don't be yoked together with unbelievers. That's right. And there's wisdom in that, baby girl. When you tie your life to someone, when you marry someone, you're yoking yourself to them. If one of you is pulling toward God and the other is pulling away, or pulling nowhere at all, what happens? You tear apart. You suffer. I don't want that for you. Jake's not pulling away from God. He's seeking. He's asking questions. Isn't that what we want? For people to seek. Seeking is different from finding, Emma. And you can't make him find what he's not ready to find. You can't save him. Only Jesus can do that. Emma's eyes filled with tears. I know that, Daddy. I do. But I also think God brought Jake into my life for a reason. And I need to see where that reason leads. Pastor David came around the desk and put his hand on Emma's shoulder. I'm not forbidding you from seeing him. I'm just asking you to be wise, to guard your heart, to remember who you are and what you believe. Promise me you'll do that. I promise, Daddy. But promises, you see, are easy to make and hard to keep, especially when your heart is already halfway gone. November came cold and gray to the little town where Jake and Emma lived. The leaves turned brown and fell from the trees, and folks started talking about Thanksgiving and Christmas, about family gatherings and holiday services. Jake had been coming to church for 2 months now, and people were starting to accept him. They'd shake his hand after service, ask him how he was doing, invite him to church potlucks and bake sales. Jake was becoming part of the community, whether he'd meant to or not. But he still wasn't a believer. Not really. He went through the motions, standing when everyone stood, sitting when everyone sat, bowing his head during prayers. But the words felt hollow in his mouth. The faith that seemed so natural to Emma felt foreign to him, like a coat that didn't quite fit. Emma could sense it. She wasn't blind. She could see that Jake was trying, but trying wasn't the same as believing. And it worried her. Late at night, she'd pray about it, kneeling beside her bed the way she'd done since she was a little girl. Lord, she'd whisper, if Jake is meant to find you, please show him the way. And if he's not, if this isn't your will, please give me the strength to let him go. But letting go was the last thing Emma wanted to do, because somewhere along the way, between the Sunday services and the Wednesday Bible studies and the Friday prayer meetings, Emma had fallen in love with Jake. She hadn't meant to. She tried to keep her distance, tried to guard her heart like her father had warned her. But Jake was kind and funny and honest. He listened when she talked. He asked questions about her faith even when the answers confused him. He made her laugh. He made her feel seen in a way she'd never felt seen before. And Jake? Jake was drowning in love. Completely, utterly, helplessly in love with Emma Grace. Everything about her amazed him. The way she hummed hymns while she did dishes after church potlucks. The way she quoted scripture like it was poetry. The way she believed, so completely and without question, in a God Jake couldn't see or touch or understand. He wanted to believe for her, wanted to be the man she deserved. But he couldn't fake it, couldn't pretend to have faith he didn't feel. One cold November evening, Jake and Emma were sitting in his truck in the church parking lot after Wednesday Bible study. Everyone else had gone home, but neither of them wanted to leave. They'd been talking for hours about everything and nothing, the way they always did. Can I ask you something? Jake said finally. Of course. What does it feel like to believe the way you do? Emma thought about this. It feels like coming home, like no matter what happens, no matter how lost I get, there's always somewhere to return to. Someone who loves me no matter what. I wish I could feel that. You can, Jake. You just have to be willing to surrender, to let go of control and trust God. But what if I can't? What if I'm not built that way? Emma turned to look at him. Then I guess we have a problem. The air in the truck got heavy. Jake could feel something breaking, something precious and fragile. Emma, I have to tell you something. I need you to know. I'm falling in love with you. Actually, I'm already there. I'm in love with you. Have been for weeks now. Emma's breath caught. Jake! I know you're supposed to be with some good Christian boy who prays before dinner and reads his Bible every morning. I know I'm not that guy. But I'm trying, Emma. I'm trying so hard to understand what you believe, to see what you see. I'm here, aren't I? I keep showing up. You're showing up for me, not for God. There's a difference. Maybe, but isn't that how it starts? People come to church for all kinds of reasons, right? They come for the music, for the community, for someone they care about. And then maybe, eventually, they find God. Emma reached out and took Jake's hand. And what if you don't? What if you keep coming and keep trying and you never find what I found? Where does that leave us? I don't know, Jake said honestly. I guess that's the question, isn't it? They sat in silence for a long moment, hands clasped, both of them afraid of what came next. Finally, Emma spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. I love you too, Jake. I didn't want to. I tried not to. But I do. And that's what makes this so hard. Because I can't be with someone who doesn't share my faith. I just can't. It would tear me apart. So what do we do? I don't know. Pray, I guess. Wait. See what God does. Jake wanted to argue. Wanted to say that they should just be together and figure out the faith stuff later. But he could see in Emma's eyes that this wasn't negotiable. Her faith was everything to her. It was the foundation of who she was. And he couldn't ask her to compromise that. Wouldn't ask her to compromise that. Okay, he said. We'll wait. We'll see. But waiting, you see, is the hardest thing in the world when your heart's already made up its mind. Thanksgiving came and went. Jake spent it with his mother, who was overjoyed that he'd been going to church regularly. She didn't know about Emma yet. Jake hadn't told her. Wasn't sure how to explain it. How do you tell your mama that you're in love with a girl you might not be able to have? How do you explain that you're going to church but still don't believe? December arrived with the first snow. Mercy Street Baptist Church was decorated for Christmas. A big tree in the corner, lights strung along the windows, a manger scene set up in the front. The choir was practicing for the Christmas Eve service, and Emma had a solo. Jake sat through every rehearsal, watching her sing, "Oh Holy Night," watching tears stream down her face as she hit the high notes. She sang like it hurt, like the joy and sorrow of Christmas, of God becoming human, of perfect love wrapped in flesh, was too much to contain. After one rehearsal, Tom approached Jake in the parking lot. Tom was the guy from Bible study, the one who'd been looking at Emma with longing. He was tall and clean-cut, with a cross tattooed on his forearm and a Bible verse bumper sticker on his car. A good Christian boy through and through. "Hey, Jake," Tom said. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" Jake tensed. He knew what was coming. "Sure. Look, man, I'm just going to be straight with you. I've known Emma since we were kids. We grew up in this church together. And I've been in love with her for about 10 years now. Okay. I'm telling you this because I think you should back off. Emma needs to be with someone who shares her faith. Someone who can lead her spiritually. And no offense, but that's not you. That's never going to be you." Jake felt anger rising in his chest, hot and sharp. "Does Emma know how you feel?" "I've never told her. Because I've been waiting. Waiting for the right time. Waiting to be the man she deserves. But then you showed up. And suddenly she doesn't see anyone else. Maybe that's her choice to make. Not yours. I'm just trying to save everyone some heartache. You're going to hurt her, Jake. You're going to hurt her because you can't give her what she needs. And when that happens, I'll be here to pick up the pieces." Tom walked away before Jake could respond. Jake stood in the parking lot, snow falling around him, hands clenched into fists. He wanted to punch something, wanted to yell. But Tom was right, wasn't he? Jake was going to hurt Emma. It was inevitable, because he couldn't become someone he wasn't, and Emma couldn't be with someone who didn't believe. That night, Jake couldn't sleep. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about Emma and faith and love and everything he couldn't have. Around midnight, he got up and drove to the church. He didn't know why, just felt pulled there, like something was calling him. The church was dark and empty. Jake tried the front door and it was unlocked. Pastor David always left it unlocked, said the church should always be open for anyone who needed it. Jake went inside and sat in his usual spot, third row right side. The sanctuary was quiet except for the hum of the heater. Snow pressed against the windows. Jake sat there for a long time just breathing. And then, for the first time in his life, he tried to pray. Really pray. Not the rote words he'd memorized as a child, but real words from his real heart. God, he whispered into the darkness. I don't know if you're there. I don't know if you can hear me, but if you can, I need help. I'm in love with Emma, and I know I'm not good enough for her. I know I don't believe the way she does, but I want to. I want to understand what she understands. I want to feel what she feels. So if you're real, if you're there, please show me. Please help me believe.